The streets of Los Angeles were alive with the hum of city life as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow over the bustling avenues. The sidewalks teemed with hurried pedestrians, each absorbed in their own world. Among them walked a man dressed simply in a hoodie and jeans. He was inconspicuous, blending into the crowd. Yet this man was far from ordinary. He was Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur and innovator. Despite his immense wealth and global recognition, Elon had always been fascinated by human nature. He found joy in quietly observing people, particularly in situations where their true character might shine through. On this particular evening, an idea had taken root in his mind. He wanted to test the integrity of someone with nothing to gain, a stranger from whom no one would expect kindness. As the neon lights of downtown faded behind him, Elon wandered into a less affluent neighborhood. Here, life moved to a different rhythm. The distant clang of cans being sorted, the shuffle of worn-out shoes on pavement, and the faint murmurs of hushed conversations replaced the bustling noise of the city. The air was heavy with a mix of resilience and despair. It was in this corner of the city that Elon's eyes fell upon a man sitting on a tattered blanket at the edge of the sidewalk. The man, who appeared to be in his late 40s, was unkempt yet dignified. His beard was scruffy, his clothes faded and worn, but his posture was straight, his demeanor calm. In front of him sat a small cardboard sign that read, "Out of work. Hungry. Anything helps. God bless." Elon slowed his steps, observing from a distance. The man wasn't pleading with passersby. He simply sat, his hopeful eyes scanning the crowd. Something about his quiet resolve struck a chord with Elon. He decided this was the person for his experiment. Feigning clumsiness, Elon pulled out his wallet and let it fall deliberately to the ground. The wallet landed with a soft thud, its contents partially spilling out. A thick stack of cash, a sleek black credit card, and business cards embossed with Elon Musk's name. Elon continued walking, pretending not to notice. For a moment, silence. Then, a steady voice called out, "Sir, hey, you drop your wallet." Elon turned to see the man rising from his blanket, holding the wallet in his rough hands. The stark contrast between his calloused fingers and the polished leather was striking. Elon walked back, his expression neutral. "Thank you," Elon said, taking the wallet. "You could have kept it. Why didn't you?" The man shrugged, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "It's not mine," he said simply. "Besides, I believe in karma. You do good, good comes back to you. At least, that's what I hope." "What's your name?" Elon asked, intrigued by the man's honesty. "David," he replied. "Been out here a couple of years now. Lost my job, then my home. Been trying to get back on my feet, but it's tough. People don't really see you when you're out here. They just walk by, like you're invisible." Elon nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "Well, David, today someone sees you." Reaching into the wallet, Elon pulled out the entire stack of cash, several $1,000s, and handed it to David. The man's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious?" David stammered, his hands trembling as he accepted the money. "Completely serious," Elon said with a smile. "Your honesty deserves a reward." David stared at the cash, tears welling up in his eyes. This will change everything," he whispered. "Thank you. You don't know what this means." Elon wasn't finished. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek business card. Handing it to David, he said, "Come to this address tomorrow. I'll arrange for someone to help you get back on your feet. Job training, housing, whatever you need to start over." David took the card, his expression a mix of astonishment and gratitude. "Who are you?" he asked softly. Elon smiled. "Just someone who appreciates honesty." The next day, David arrived at the address on the card. It was one of Tesla's corporate offices. Nervous but hopeful, he was greeted warmly by a team that had been briefed by Elon. Over the next several weeks, David was provided with housing, job training, and a fresh start. He threw himself into the opportunity, working hard to rebuild his life. Months later, David stood on the stage of a community event, recounting his story. He spoke of the man who had dropped his wallet, how that moment of honesty had changed his life. In the audience, Elon watched quietly, blending into the crowd as always. He smiled, not because he had given David a second chance, but because David had embraced it with courage and determination. The lesson was clear. Even in the darkest moments, integrity matters. Acts of kindness, no matter how small, can ripple outward, transforming lives in ways we cannot imagine. The ripple effect of a second chance. David's transformation didn't happen overnight. The road back to stability was paved with challenges, self-doubt, and moments of overwhelming emotion. Yet, for the first time in years, he felt like the universe had handed him a lifeline. And he clung to it with everything he had. The first step forward. On his first day at the Tesla office, David was introduced to a mentor named Clara, a bright and compassionate woman in her mid-30s who specialized in workforce reintegration programs. Clara wasn't just a professional. She had her own story of struggle, having rebuilt her life after escaping an abusive relationship. She understood what it meant to start over, and she saw something in David, a determination that mirrored her own. "We'll start with the basics," Clara said, handing David a binder filled with resources. Resume building, interview skills, basic tech training. Everything you need to feel prepared for the workforce again. But first, let's focus on stabilizing your day-to-day life. The next step was housing. Through partnerships with local nonprofits, Tesla arranged for David to move into a modest but clean studio apartment. For the first time in years, he slept in a bed with clean sheets, free from the constant anxiety of the streets. He wept that first night, overwhelmed by the simple luxury of locking a door behind him. The spark of hope. David threw himself into the program with fervor. He attended workshops, took online courses, and even started working on his GED, a dream he had abandoned years ago. Clara noticed his hunger to learn and encouraged him to apply for an entry-level position at one of Tesla's factories. "You've got what it takes, David," she said during one of their sessions. "This isn't just about a job. It's about proving to yourself what you're capable of." Though nervous, David applied. A week later, he received a call. He'd been hired as a warehouse associate. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. The day he received his first paycheck, he stared at it for what felt like hours, tears of pride streaming down his face. It wasn't just money. It was proof that he was rebuilding his life, one brick at a time, paying it forward. David's honesty had not only caught Elon Musk's attention, but had also inspired countless others. When word of the story spread, thanks to a journalist who happened to be at the Tesla office the day David arrived, it went viral. People were moved by the simplicity of the exchange. A lost wallet, an act of integrity, and a life transformed. David began receiving letters from strangers across the country. Some shared their own stories of hardship. Others sent small donations, hoping to contribute to his journey. David used the money not for himself, but to buy care packages for others experiencing homelessness. Blankets, toiletries, and food. "I know what it's like to feel invisible," David said when asked why he was giving away what little he had. "If I can help even one person feel seen, then it's worth it." The unexpected reunion. Months later, David received an invitation to a private event at SpaceX headquarters. It was an employee appreciation day. But David was unsure why he'd been invited. When he arrived, he was greeted by none other than Elon Musk. "David," Elon said, extending his hand. "I wanted to check in on you. How's life treating you these days?" David couldn't help but smile. "Better than I ever imagined. I have a job, a home, and hope. None of this would have been possible without you." Elon shook his head. "All I did was open a door. You walked through it. That's the real story here." As they spoke, Elon shared how David's honesty had inspired him to think deeper about Tesla's and SpaceX's role in supporting their communities. "We talk a lot about changing the future," Elon said, "but sometimes the biggest change comes from helping people right now." David was asked to share his story with the employees that day. As he stood on stage, he felt a surge of gratitude, not just for Elon's generosity, but for the countless strangers who had believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. Building a legacy. Over the next year, David's life continued to evolve. He was promoted at work, took on leadership roles, and became a mentor to others in the reintegration program. Clara often joked that he was stealing her job, but she couldn't have been prouder of him. David also started volunteering at shelters and speaking at schools, sharing his journey to inspire others. "Life can knock you down," he would say, "but as long as you keep your integrity, you'll always have something to build on." One of his proudest moments came when he launched a nonprofit called Second Chances, aimed at providing resources and mentorship for people transitioning out of homelessness. Backed by a generous grant from the Musk Foundation, the organization quickly gained traction, helping hundreds of individuals find stability. The true measure of success. Years later, David sat in his modest office at Second Chances, surrounded by photos and letters from those his organization had helped. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was a young woman, nervous but hopeful, clutching the tattered resume. "I heard you give people a chance," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't have much experience, but I'm willing to work hard." David smiled, remembering the day he had walked into Tesla's offices with nothing but hope. "Come in," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Let's get started." As he began reviewing her resume, David reflected on how far he'd come. Not long ago, he had been the one sitting on a blanket, feeling invisible. Now he was proof that a single moment of kindness could change the trajectory of a life. And somewhere, in the bustling streets of Los Angeles, another person dropped their wallet, testing the world for its kindness, just as Elon had done that fateful evening. For David, the lesson was clear. Life is a series of ripples, and every act of integrity or kindness sends waves into the world, touching lives in ways we can't always see. The ripple becomes a wave. The success of Second Chances was a testament to the profound impact one moment of kindness could have. Yet David knew the journey was far from over. Each day, he encountered new stories of struggle and resilience that reminded him of his own path. The organization had grown rapidly, but David had a vision far bigger than a single nonprofit. He wanted to create a movement that would change the way society viewed homelessness and second chances. The turning point. One morning, as David was preparing for a meeting with potential donors, he received an unexpected call. The voice on the other end belonged to Clara, his mentor and now a close friend. "David, you need to see this," Clara said, her voice trembling with excitement. She forwarded a link to a viral video that had been circulating online. The video featured a young man named Jamal, who had recently been released from prison and had been living in his car. Jamal shared how Second Chances had not only helped him find stable housing, but also trained him for a job as a solar panel technician. In the video, Jamal stood proudly on a rooftop, installing solar panels, his face lit with a smile. "I never thought I'd have a future like this," he said. "David's team didn't just give me a job, they gave me back my dignity." The video struck a chord with millions, sparking conversations about rehabilitation, redemption, and the untapped potential of people's society often overlooked. Donations to Second Chances surged overnight, and offers of collaboration poured in from companies, celebrities, and community leaders. The movement grows. With the influx of resources, David expanded Second Chances into a national initiative. Regional hubs were established in cities across the United States, each staffed by teams dedicated to providing housing, job training, mental health support, and mentorship. David also partnered with companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and other corporations that shared his vision of creating pathways for those in need. The initiative became a blueprint for reintegration programs, blending compassion with practicality. One of the most impactful changes was the introduction of a mentorship network. Those who had been helped by second chances were encouraged to become mentors for others, creating a cycle of support and empowerment. David often said, "The best way to honor the help you've received is to pass it on." A seat at the table. As the movement gained momentum, David found himself invited to speak at conferences, universities, and even Capitol Hill. He wasn't just sharing his story anymore. He was advocating for systemic change. In one memorable speech before Congress, David addressed lawmakers with a mix of passion and humility. "Homelessness isn't just a lack of housing," he said. "It's a lack of opportunity, a lack of being seen as human. We don't need handouts. We need hand-ups." Programs like Second Chances prove that when you invest in people, the return is immeasurable. His words resonated deeply, inspiring bipartisan support for new legislation aimed at expanding resources for workforce reintegration and affordable housing initiatives. A personal milestone. Amid the whirlwind of growth and advocacy, David reached a deeply personal milestone. One evening, he returned to the streets where his journey had begun. Clad in a simple jacket and jeans, he walked the familiar avenues, now bustling with life. He stopped at a corner where he had once sat on a worn blanket, holding a cardboard sign. The memories flooded back, the hopelessness, the hunger, the fear of being forgotten. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and then opened them to see a young man sitting where he had once been. The man looked up, his eyes weary but kind. In front of him was a sign that read, "Trying to get back on my feet. Anything helps. God bless." David knelt down, meeting the man's gaze. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Marcus," the man replied, his voice hesitant. David reached into his pocket, pulling out a card with the Second Chances logo. "Marcus, I've been where you are. Tomorrow, I want you to come to this address. We'll help you get started." Marcus stared at the card, his expression shifting from disbelief to cautious hope. "Why are you doing this for me?" he asked. David smiled, his voice steady. "Because someone once did it for me. And because I believe in second chances. The future beckons." As the years went by, Second Chances evolved into a global movement. David's story inspired countless individuals to reevaluate their perceptions of homelessness, poverty, and redemption. Governments began adopting policies based on his model, and communities came together to create lasting change. David never forgot the moment that started it all. A lost wallet, a simple act of honesty, and the kindness of a stranger. He often reflected on Elon Musk's words, "I opened a door, but you walked through it." For David, the door had not just been an opportunity, it had been a responsibility to help others find their own paths. The legacy of kindness. Decades later, David sat on the board of directors for Second Chances, now retired from day-to-day operations, but still deeply involved in its mission. On the organization's 25th anniversary, he was honored with an award for his contributions to humanity. In his acceptance speech, David said, "This isn't my legacy. It's ours. It belongs to every person who chose integrity over convenience, who saw potential instead of failure, and who believed that a single act of kindness could change the world." And somewhere, on a quiet street in Los Angeles, another wallet was dropped, another test of kindness unfolding. The ripple had become a wave, and the wave was unstoppable. The power of small choices. David's story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that life's most profound transformations often begin with the simplest of actions. A lost wallet, a moment of honesty, a chance extended to someone in need. As Second Chances celebrated its milestone anniversary, the movement had not only changed the lives of thousands, but also reshaped the narrative around homelessness, redemption, and humanity's capacity for kindness. Yet for David, the true success of the initiative wasn't measured in numbers or accolades. It was in the quiet victories of the individuals it helped. A letter that brought closure. On a quiet evening, David received a letter that brought his journey full circle. It was from Marcus, the young man he had met on the street years ago. The letter was simple but heartfelt. "Dear David, I wanted to thank you again for seeing me that day on the corner. Because of you, I not only found a job but a sense of purpose. I've been mentoring others through second chances, just like you did for me. I hope one day I can help someone the way you helped me. You taught me that our past doesn't define us, but the choices we make today do. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. With gratitude, Marcus. David read the letter several times, each word a poignant reminder of the ripple effect of compassion. It was never about grand gestures or monumental acts. It was about the small, deliberate choices to do good, even when no one was watching. As David reflected on his journey, he realized the lesson wasn't just for those who had struggled, it was for everyone. The world is often overwhelming, its problems vast and complex, but change begins with small, intentional acts. Each of us has the power to impact someone's life, whether through honesty, kindness, or simply acknowledging another person's humanity. He often told people, "You don't need to be wealthy, famous, or powerful to make a difference. All you need is the courage to care." Kindness isn't about what you have. It's about what you give, even when it's easier to turn away. A life well lived. In the end, David's life was a testament to the power of second chances, not just for those who received them, but for those who gave them. He had turned his own moment of despair into a lifetime of purpose, showing the world that no one is truly invisible and everyone has the potential to rise. As David looked out at the sunset from the modest home he had built for himself, he felt a deep sense of peace. The world wasn't perfect, but it was better, one act of kindness at a time. And so, the story of a lost wallet became a story of found purpose. The lesson was clear: integrity, compassion, and the willingness to see others not as they are, but as they could be, can create ripples that become waves, changing lives, and ultimately, the world. In the end, it's the smallest choices that define us. What will you do when your moment comes? Will you choose kindness, integrity, and hope? David's story reminds us that the answer to that question can change not only your life, but the lives of countless others.